What is going on, everybody, man? King Recon here. Now, this particular video series on the Hueco Mundo Arc, I've had planned since near the conception of my channel, since 2013, around 2014, 2013-ish. I've been wanting to do a series like this. I just didn't know how I wanted to do it. You know, after a while on YouTube, I had really gotten into video essays and watching video essays, and I wanted my first video essay to be on why I think the Hueco Mundo arc is so special, and why I think it is the most underappreciated arc in the series. But as time has gone on, I drifted away from wanting to make a video essay, and drifted more towards a proper reread with other people. And that turned into a rewatch, and that turned into a reread again. So I've decided that I want to reread the arc slowly but surely, but I want to do it on the channel and discuss it with all of you. This gives me an excuse to re-experience Bleach and go through Bleach again. And I'm gonna be honest with y'all, man, ever since Jump Force came out, I've been in a heavy Bleach mood. I've been in a heavy Bleach mood because I spam and use the living Flagnards out of Ichigo, bro. You know, just using, I can continue to say, just being able to use Ichigo, Luffy, and Naruto, or the combination of like Dio, Aizen, and Blackbeard, and you know, all this stuff is really just made me feel like a kid again. It made me feel the same way that I did when I first got into anime, which, you know, I of course got through most, I mean, of course I got through it with like stuff like Messenger and Dragon Ball, but the main one that really got me into the medium of anime was Bleach, because that one was the one that really made me want to go out and search other series to watch, because I love this one so much that I tried to find something else too that would give me the same feeling, you know. So I always, whenever you go through and have like this experience like that in Jump Force with all these different characters, it reminds you of your beginnings, and thus it's put me in a Bleach mood, man. It really has. So I decided to go back. I mean, I had already been doing a reread of Bleach, and I had gotten up to the Arrancar arrival stuff, you know, between volumes 21 through 26, and so I'd already reread that earlier on this year, and like in December, November, somewhere around there. But since I'd gotten to volume 27, I was like, you know what, man? Since I got to this legendary volume of the Goodbye Halcyon days, I was like, bro, let's start from there. Let's start from there as more of like a prologue to the Hueco Mundo saga itself, because to me, the Hueco Mundo arc is special because of the stuff that happens before it, leading into it, and then all this stuff popping off once we actually get to Hueco Mundo. I want to do the entirety of the Arrancar, like the beginning of the Arrancar saga, because all that stuff is greatness. But since I'm in this part of my reread, I said, let's just do this, man. Let's talk about that saga right there, going from, which is in the manga, from volume 27 to volume, I believe it's 34. And then in the anime from episode 141 to 167, go into filler, and then from like episode 190 to like 206, I think it is. It's been a while, but I think that is what those episodes are. But yeah, man, let's talk about some of the prologue to the Hueco Mundo arc, aka the end of the Arrancar arrival arc, man. So starting off, of course, this batch of chapters, and once again, if you want to go back and reread this for yourself before you read this or before you watch this video, I'm going to be talking about chapters 237, 238, 239, 240, and 241. I'm the type of person that whenever I'm rereading something, I know it's weird, I know it sounds really weird, but I don't like getting spoiled, quote unquote, or seeing panels or whatever of stuff that I'm rereading. I'm weird like that, man, and if you're weird like that too, then please go out and reread from chapter 237 to chapter 241, and then come back to the video, man. But anyways, talking about chapter 237, man, which is the Goodbye Halcyon days chapter. This chapter to me has always been one of the more memorable ones. This one means a lot to me. I remember back whenever I was younger, when I first got into the series, this episode would be the episode where everybody that got into Bleach, I'd be waiting for them to reach this episode. Like, there was like 3 points in the series that I was waiting for people to reach at that point in time. So at that point in time, I wanted them to reach episode 17, of course, which changes the whole series. I wanted them to reach episode 60, or 59, going into 60, you know, after the Ichigo versus Byakuya, going into the Aizen's, the revelation of Aizen as the main villain of the series. And then, of course, episode 141. And the reason why I say 141 is because episode 141 initiates everything that we're about to see in the Hueco Mundo saga. This, to me, begins the Hueco Mundo arc, which has always been a special arc to me. No matter when it is that I think or talk about Bleach, I always look back to this arc as being the truly defining piece that Kubo has written. And it makes me love this series, man. As amazing and as incredible Soul Society is as a whole, just this stretch of chapters that I'm about to talk about here, in whatever, however long it takes me to reread this arc, man, I love this stuff. I really, really do, man. Of the Hueco Mundo Arc saga. And it starts off with this episode, which is episode 141, but we're gonna be talking about the chapter in chapter 237, which is Orihime's goodbye to only one person. You know, the chapter starts off with really beautiful panel structure of Orihime going down, and you see her writing down a note, and on the bottom it says, "Goodbye, halcyon days." And then, of course, we go and we see her on this journey. Well, in the anime, they stretched it out, and you just saw her go through this journey of like going throughout a whole bunch of different places and whatnot. But in the manga, we get to see a depressed, once again, Ichigo, unable to do anything, is stuck in his bed. He's injured and hurt, and Rukia is sitting here trying to help him. And of course, we have Yuzu and Kardin who also fall asleep in his room as well, because they all care so much about Ichigo, but he's going through such an internal struggle that he's blocking out all of that love and affection that's coming towards him, because he's trying to fix and do everything by himself. But we'll get to that here in a second. Orihime comes into the room, and she proceeds to say goodbye to Ichigo, because the agreement between her and Ulquiorra is that, you know, since she's going to wear this bracelet, nobody else can see her except for the Arancars, and thus she can only say goodbye to one person, only one person. And then if anybody figures out that she has left, then there is going to be some problems. And Orihime does say goodbye to Ichigo, and this just the lead up, the panels. I mean, Kubo was on fire with his panel structure here in this chapter. The lead into the kiss, and then you turn the chapter, or you turn the page, and she says, you know, "I can't do it," with tears coming down her face, and you could just hear the soundtrack's "Here to Stay" and "Soundscape to Adore" just playing in your head as you read this chapter. And it's a really, really well done chapter as Orihime drifts off and heads off into Hueco Mundo. Chapter 237 to me is a good sauce. I feel like with my reread, because I've watched this episode so many times, because for some, I don't know, maybe it's because I didn't watch the episode in the anime whenever I was rereading this, and to me there's certain episodes just hit harder in the anime. But in terms of the chapter itself, to me it's a good sauce, even though I still love it, and it is a great chapter. I feel like I'm more connected, maybe from a nostalgia standpoint, and maybe from a overall, the way I'm connected to the entire portion is through the anime, through episode 141. Because, to be honest with you, if I still go back to it and I were to make a top favorite episodes list, I would still go back to it and probably put 141 on that list. Because, like I said before, to how I saw that as like the point of the start of this saga, and how that episode in particular was such an emotional episode. But it's a special one. It's a special one. It's definitely a chapter / episode that whenever you first watch it, it's pretty hard to not remember it because of how different it is of an episode and a chapter to the rest of the series. But yeah, man, it is definitely the kickoff point to the Hueco Mundo Arc saga, and it deserves praise. It deserves praise, and that's why I decided to give it a good sauce. A good sauce because, you know, Orihime as a character, and the way that we continue to see her as the story has gone on, and all the build up from the rest of this arc up until this point, not even just the rest of the Arankar saga, but in Soul Society as well, and how we viewed herself as being useless, and it continued to move on and on, how she just wanted to help Ichigo, and it continued to move on. And then you look back to whenever Ichigo got destroyed by Grimmjow, man, and you got those slight panels of Orihime healing Ichigo, and then just looking up at him, a saddened, depressed look on his face, man. And the same thing whenever she was healing Rukia and Chad, and like she would always look up at Ichigo, and she would say, "Yo, he's so far away from me. Like, same thing with episode 113 and 114, whenever Ichigo shows up to save her from Ulquiorra and Yami. It was the same thing, like, yo, he's just so far away from me, like I feel this difference, and I want to help him. And then right here, she had an opportunity to help all of them. All the people, because, and then of course you have the situation with Kisuke, where Kisuke wouldn't allow her to fight on the battlefield, and that in of itself made her feel useless. That made her feel like she just couldn't contribute to anything, and to a warrior, to a fighter, to somebody who's gone through the situation before, to somebody who wants to help people. That is one of the most frustrating things that you can hear, is that you have to sit out on the battlefield. You know what I'm saying? That's extremely frustrating, and I understood those feelings, man. And so whenever she got taken away by the Arancars, but not only did she get taken away in a devious manner that only the Espada would do, with Aizen at the head, they tell her to say goodbye to only one person, man. And the more I think about it, the more I remember why I love this episode. I'm gonna have to bump up the rating to a great sauce, man. But it just goes back to, I mean, this entire arc is about all of the characters' mental struggles and how they have to overcome them, but this is Orihime's struggle right here, man. On how she just felt so useless and just wanted to contribute in some way, shape, or form to the cause, to help them, you know, in this war against the Espada. You know, she trained for a month with Rukia non-stop, going in every single day because she wanted to get stronger. And what happened? She ended up being the catalyst to the entire war herself. All because of certain people's interest, well, the head's interest in her abilities. And to me, it was powerful, this chapter. Now that I'm talking about it, I remember why it is I love this episode and chapter so much. It's some powerful stuff, man, where she's only able to say goodbye to just one person, and she says, man, screw all the other stuff. At the end of the day, I'm gonna go with my raw emotions. I'm gonna go with my heart, with my feelings here, man. And I'm gonna go say goodbye to the one person that I truly love, man. And you see, like, there's just certain quotes that stick with you because you can really just feel how much this person loves this person. And when Orihime says that, you know, I could have been reborn as this or as that or as this or as that, and all five of them would end up falling in love with the same person, you're like, by God, man, like this is where all those feelings of help and everything stems from, man. It's just from this human emotion that all of us have in love, man. You know what I'm saying? And it's incredible. Like, it's truly Kubo, to me, at the height of his character writing, when it comes to the emotions, when it comes to how all the characters feel emotionally, how they have to overcome these emotions. But anyways, this continues Orihime's struggles going into the arc, and we'll talk about that as we go later on into the arc. So that is chapter 237. Goodbye Halcyon Days. The more I talked about it, screw it, not good sauce, it was great sauce. It was a great sauce of a chapter, man. Great sauce of a chapter. And then after that, we have chapter 238, which is Eagle Without Wings. This one's a good sauce, man. This is basically the entire chapter is Ichigo waking up, feeling Orihime's spiritual pressure. Then Torshiro shows up saying, oh, that must be Orihime's spiritual pressure. They head off into Orihime's house, which they have that humongous monitor, which to me was always hilarious. But anyways, regardless, they go over there and they go talk to Captain Ukitake, which is the last person that saw Orihime before she hid up over here. And then Ichigo goes on to tell, because Ukitake says that she's probably dead, you know, that would make Ichigo mad any day of the week. So my man tells him, like, yo, there's no way in the Flying Flag Nards that she's dead, because I feel her spiritual pressure right here. You know, she's the only one that could have healed me from such a wound so quickly. And that's when Captain Yamamoto says that it's because of that she is now a traitor. And you know, while watching or reading this scene, you just want to punch the screen, or you want to punch your book, man. You're like, what is, like if only they knew, man. But Kubo is really good at that type of stuff, making you want to punch certain people in the face because they just don't see the other perspective. They don't see the other side. And this was one of those moments, man. I just wanted to take all of those dudes at the soul side and just punch them all in the face. And shout out to my guy Renji. Shout out to my guy Renji for saying, hey, man, I'll go to Hueco Mundo and bring back the trader Orihime Inoue, man. And I was like, yo, shout out to my guy, bro. And then of course they all leave Ichigo by himself as Yamamoto says, listen, man, I might have to do it by force then. And we see Kenpachi and Byakuya and through us in Kaimo, and coming in through us in Kaimo and telling them, look, man, don't even try to fight us. It doesn't take you back by force. And then we see that legendary to end off the chapter, we see that one of the more iconic images from the series, at least for me, which is from opening 6, but also in episode 142 / the end of chapter 238, with Ichigo looking down, very depressed, with the sword going out of his, with the Zanpakuto going out of his back, indicating that chapter right there, that now he is just left all alone. Like, unlike Soul Society, unlike in that arc where to go rescue Rukia, he had all this help around him. Now he's all alone, because the other people that are left here are not strong enough, and he does not believe in them enough to be able to take on this mission with them. But he doesn't care, because he's gonna go rescue Orihime regardless. So now all that's left is sadness and emptiness, because everyone that he was counting on to go with him, you know, the friends that he had made throughout this entire journey, to go out and do that. Now he can't even do it. And the sad part about it is that he knows that Rukia and Renji want to help. He knows that Rangiku and Toshiro want to help. But the head captain said, yo, y'all gotta retreat. You gotta get ready for the war, man. And, you know, this chapter makes you mad because you know it's true. Like, if I were the head captain general, and I'm saying, yo, we're gonna sacrifice this war just for one girl, and when you see it from their perspective, and you take like a look back, you're like, yeah, man, you know, he does have a good point. You know, they do have to get ready for this war, and they have to tell everybody to come back and retreat, and then they also need Ichigo himself. Like, they can't allow him to do some stupid stuff, but you already know Ichigo's gonna do some stupid stuff. And I love how Ichigo even says, like, yo, man, I'll just save her by myself. Screw all y'all, man. Just let me know how to get into Hueco Mundo. And that's whenever Yamamoto tells him, you know, we need you, because obviously you're strong, and we can use your help here in this war against Aizen. But anyways, man, this was a good sauce of a chapter. This is another one of those. This entire portion right here is key for me, you know, starting off the saga into Hueco Mundo. But this one in particular is a good sauce of a chapter. The next chapter, chapter 239, Winged Eagles. I can't even begin to explain how much I love this chapter in the anime, man. This chapter in the anime, with Ichigo going around whenever he goes back to school, and we have, well, first of all, we see the letter with Shinji, and y'all know how I feel about Shinji, man, but this was at this point in time when Shinji was still one of my favorite characters. We see Shinji open up a letter saying thank you from Ichigo for all the thing, and he calls him an idiot. I always remembered that from the anime. But a chapter in itself, we have Ichigo and that entire situation with Mitsuhiro, Keigo, and Tatsuki, where he finally shows up at school for the first time in a month. He's not trying to let anybody in on the details of what has happened. And for me, this was one of those things that I'm glad that I experienced Bleach, or I experienced this portion in particular whenever I was in high school, because I related a lot to a lot of these moments, man. I really did for when it came to Ichigo's character. But Ichigo in particular, during this entire portion, we have Keigo and Mitsuhiro, which want to, you know, hang out with him later on. Mitsuhiro in particular wants to know where he has been for the past month. They continue to hammer in that this man has been gone for a month from school. You have his teacher telling him that, yo, thanks for the compliment on the hairdo, but I got this 3 weeks ago. Slaps him in the head. Great stuff right there, but overall, man, it's crazy. And the anime really emphasizes on on Tatsuki losing her mind, looking around for Orihime. I mean, you spend like a good 3 minutes of the episode of her just going from place to place, donut shops, going down the streets. She can't feel her anywhere. And it really extends certain portions in this episode. Something with certain classroom scenes. It's something that Studio Period has always done well with Bleach, is extend certain scenes in ways, you know, they do excellent filler anyway, filler arcs, filler sagas, but the filler within the canon content is also really good as well. And this was another example of one of those episodes in episode 142. But excuse me, Tatsuki finally gets there, and she's telling Ichigo, like, yo, man, listen. And I love this because it's such an emotional moment, and both in the Japanese and in the English, the voice actors for both Ichigo and Tatsuki just nail it. They just nail it. Johnny Young Bosch did a fantastic job in the entire arc, I forget Tatsuki's voice actress, but she did a fantastic job. She just goes ham on my mans, bro. I mean, everything from, I've seen you in the black robe fighting those monsters, tell me the truth, stop lying to me, words, Orihime, you're the only one that knows, to Ichigo delivering lines like, man, I mean, he's shook at the fact that she knows this, and who wouldn't be shook, you know what I'm saying? I mean, we saw it. We as readers saw that Tatsuki had seen all this, and we as readers had seen that Tatsuki had already known and had some sort of feel for this from the very beginning. But now everything was actually coming fully into fruition, and it was popping off. Like, she was telling him, listen, I have seen it. I know the truth, so stop hiding it from me. And Ichigo, as he's continuing this entire mental journey of his, tells her that this is none of your business. Tatsuki delivers a punch of legend, man. A punch of legend. Says my man head blasting through some glasses, through the window. And just tells her to believe in her, man. Like, am I even still your friend? And Ichigo tells all three of them to stay as far away from them as possible. And another thing that I really liked about this portion was when Mizuhiro hands him the ticket, and Ichigo says, you know, I should be back by then. I should be back by then, man. But just looking back on that entire portion in hindsight, it's such an incredible piece of dialogue because of the build-up. Once again, like, this is when a lot of the stuff started popping off when it comes to the characters, and this had been built up for such a long time in the series that whenever you actually see it happening, you're like, whoa, like, you're completely immersed because you're like, holy sweet mother of Flagners, is actually happening. This is going down. But Ichigo once again going, you know, let me go ahead and talk about Ichigo real fast, man. Let me talk about Ichigo real quick, because the reason why I like this entire portion right here so much, one of the main reasons, is Ichigo's mental struggle. Because Kubo laid out the groundwork to where after Soul Society, he needed to break Ichigo down in order to bring him back up so he could become as strong as ever, right? Now, that's the main point. The main, if you were to take and just make it a skeleton, the main basis of this entire thing is Ichigo's mental struggle over himself, so that he can become stronger, because him overcoming himself mentally will lead him to becoming stronger physically and spiritually and whatnot, which is an incredible message. But anyways, from Ichigo's entire struggle to him going around and realizing, quote unquote, that no one around him is strong enough to be able to take to be able to go through and take on these espadas. And I love how that's where Kubo was going through all the different Arrancar battles that we saw taking place from the beginning whenever Yami invaded and saw Chad and Orihime getting pwned, to later on whenever we see a Grimmjow squad, and once again Chad comes in and Ichigo actually tells him verbally, like, yo, I got this, man, you're not strong enough. And then whenever they invade once again, and he just goes straight from the visors to go on and take on Grimmjow for round 2. But that's why he went on and went with the training with the visors. Still to this day, that to me is such an incredible portion of the series, because that's Ichigo literally saying, I can't advance unless I allow myself to be swallowed so that I can come out of it, and I need to utilize this power that's taken me over, because I have to do this by myself at this point. Ichigo had already resolved himself to do everything by himself, to where whenever we got to this point in the story where he wanted to isolate himself from everybody, it was obvious. Like, it was obvious that this was the point where it was getting to, because he continued to isolate himself as it had gone on. He didn't want to bother anybody with his problems, which I can totally understand and relate to. He didn't want to bother anybody with, he didn't want to get anybody involved, especially after one of his friends had just gotten kidnapped and taken away by the Arrancars for some reason or another that he wasn't aware of. He was like, yo, if I get somebody else involved, they're gonna get hurt too. So as only Ichigo would, he creates a spike. He goes through the hedgehog's dilemma and does not want anybody to. He doesn't want anybody to get close to him, because they're just gonna get hurt, and he's gonna get hurt as well because he couldn't help him and protect him. So in order to protect himself, he's isolating himself. In order to protect himself, which is a selfish thing, but it's something that we all go through. In order to protect himself and also to protect his friends, he isolates himself and becomes the villain to a lot of his friends, man. And I love that. I really do, man. I really do. And just his struggle to get through all of that stuff mentally, and to go through all these things they would not have done through previously, just in order to make himself strong enough, so strong to where he does not need anybody's help and does not need to rely on anybody else, man. Which is the complete opposite message that we were getting back in Soul Society, where he continued to rely on Zangetsu, where he continued to rely on Chad, continue to rely on Orihime, continue to rely on Uryu. Like, the reason why he was able to get through all those dudes in Soul Society is because he relied on somebody in order to get there, man. And that was a main message from Soul Society, which is why I always say that this one and Soul Society, even though they're both rescue arcs, they're different. They are very, very different, and that is clear by the time that you get to this chapter, in terms of how one is different from the other. Where one is about relying on other individuals, and the other one is about getting over one's mental struggles, which is what all three of them that we're about to talk about here had to do. So we get to Kisuke's, we get back to Kisuke's place. Kisuke already knew Ichigo was coming. That you know, he's the only one that could take him into Hueco Mundo. And so Ichigo goes in, he's ready to go into like swimwear. And then right here we see, and I love this part in the anime because this Quincy's Craft starts playing, and we see Uryu, and I was so hyped. I'll never forget the first time I watched that, man. I was so hyped. I was like, yo, he actually managed to get through that stuff with Ryuken and got his powers back. And then I saw Chad, man, and I was like, alright, it's time, man. And this entire portion is so great because you can just tell in the confidence of Uryu that he's gotten stronger. And because he's gotten stronger physically, you know that he's gotten through that mental hurdle. And then in Chad's case, whenever the very first thing that Ichigo says is, hey, you guys aren't strong enough, man. Like I'll take care of this. Don't worry about it. Just stay back. First thing Chad does is pulls out his punch, which is holding in all of the fury and anger that he's had. Because Ichigo wouldn't rely on him, man, like he would in the past, and he just punches the flagners out of him. Massive explosion. I mean, Ichigo has to block with Zangetsu. If not, he's getting smoked. And Chad says, do you still think I'm still not strong enough, bro? Do you still think we're not strong enough? Please let us help you, man. And that's when Ichigo says, aight. And I love so much about this moment is, once again, this is those three character arcs, which had been taking place throughout the entirety of the Rancor arrival up until this point, just coming in, just culminating right here, man. As they continue their mental journey, we have Chad coming in, who just believed himself to be so weak, and it's tough for somebody like Chad to admit to himself that he's weak so he can train more, because we remember how he was looked at in Soul Society, man. We saw Chad as like the second in command. We saw Chad as the dude who'll take care of business, who Ichigo could rely on in any situation. Any situation. We even believed it whenever Chad was taking on Captain Kyoraku, a captain. How Chad was spotlighted at that point in time. How Chad was as a character was so much that he was the very first person to take on a captain. Even though Ichigo took on Kenpachi first, technically, that fight didn't get resolved until after the stuff with Chad and Kyoraku. So Chad was the first person to take on a captain. That just shows you, the amount of, and the entire flashback took place in that portion anyways. But getting back to the main point, Chad, for somebody as strong as him, and somebody who's always had Ichigo rely on him, or always had like that connection with Ichigo, to where like they were like equals, you know, that was respected each other's strengths. And for Ichigo to say, yo, just stay back, I got this, man. Like, you know how much that has to hurt, my dude? And for him to swallow his pride and ask for training from Kisuke, and to go out and train for the past month, man, you were, I mean, I know I was extremely excited to see how Chad had improved in this entire portion situation in the story. So that was him getting through that mental journey and that mental struggle of admitting that he was weak so that he could get stronger, man. So that he could get back to the point to where now Ichigo and his friends could rely on him once again. And then with Uryu, of course, with him losing his powers back in the Soul Society and him going out and taking on Ryuken. And I love this portion so much because when the beginning of the arc, whenever Ryuken goes in, he destroys that hollow, and we find out that of Ryuken actually also being a Quincy. And it was so cool because we had always been talking about Soka and Ishida for so long, but you know, we'd never really talking about Ryuken. And just having that father-son struggle and seeing how his father truly is, and how he managed to get his powers back, and just seeing that process slowly but surely throughout the arc, and Uryu truly having to earn this back, man. It was so cool seeing him once again, and with a new getup. And then now all three of them are ready to head off into the Soul Society. I mean, not Soul Society, freaking out, Hueco Mundo. So that chapter, to me, chapter 239, is a great sauce as well. That's I always look back on this chapter, and in the end of that chapter in particular, the end of this chapter and the beginning of chapter 240 are always big moments for me because the commercials back then on Adult Swim had this moment of like, oh, Kisuke saying, oh, it looks like everybody's ready, and you just see them all looking into the Garganta, and that's how that commercial started off for the Hueco Mundo arc, because they had several different commercials back in Hueco Mundo. It was such a popular arc. They were airing 2 episodes every single week on Adult Swim because it was just such a massively popular arc that that entire Ronker saga, that they just get pushing it and pushing it. I mean, sometimes we get 4 episodes. I mean, two new episodes, 2 reruns. It would air from like 12:30 to 2:30. I mean, Bleach was just killing it at that time in the ratings. And I remember back in high school, man, everybody was talking about Bleach, bro. I mean, even if you were an anime fan, I mean, it was just heat. It was just fire, you know. So it was good times, and maybe that's why that portion right there is always so cool to me. Whenever they all head off into the Garganta, man, it's such a great and incredible image. So then we go into chapter 240. I love this chapter. I mean, this, I'm gonna tell you right now, this chapter is a fantastic sauce. The rating for chapter 240 is a fantastic sauce, man. Yo, the panel structure in the beginning of this chapter. The panel structure, the dialogue showcasing Ichigo's resolve, where he verbally says, like, because he's telling Kisuke, he's like, yo, tell my family, like, come up with some excuse, tell them I'm okay, and to my friends, because Kisuke asks him, what about your friends? He says, I'll tell them when I get back, showcasing to himself and Ichigo as being that type of person who, whenever he says something out loud, it's like that resolve that he has, that now he's gonna go through and take care of the situation at hand, because he's already made a promise verbally. And I loved that, man. I loved it. And they said he'll apologize to them when he finishes the mission, man. And they head off, bro. They head off into Hueco Mundo, setting off that new portion of the story. And then continuing another subplot, we have Tatsuki, Keiko, and Mizuhiro actually seeing Ichigo go toward Hueco Mundo now, right? And I'm like, oh, flagnarts, bro, because that's continuing that subplot right there as well. And then we have Kisuke saying, give me a bit, y'all, man. I have some work I need to do as well. And you're like, yo, because we already saw Kisuke taking on an Espada, man. We know he could take care of business, so we're like, yo, what is Kisuke about to do? You know what I'm saying, man? It just brings back so many of these memories and feelings that I had whenever I was first watching all of this greatness, man. We kick back to Hueco Mundo, and we see Aizen's authority at hand. We see Orihime there, still in her school uniform, and immediately Aizen tells her to show us your ability, man. And we get an explanation to what her ability actually does, you know, the projection of phenomena and whatnot. You can just hear the Espada music playing, man. I love these panels. But what's so genius to me about this portion right here is that it not only Kubo, but it seemed like more like Aizen was the one that planned. I mean, of course, Kubo's the one planned. He's the writer, but it seemed like Aizen was the one that planned, and it just made Aizen seem more like a devious and conniving and just genius bastard that he is. That this man made Grimmjow get mad the first time, or made Grimmjow and freaking Tosen get into that argument in front of him, so that Tosen will cut off his arm and eradicate it, just so that Grimmjow could come back right here whenever Orihime comes back, and now he, with the abilities that he has gained once again, or not even the abilities, but just with the arm that he has gained once again. And now, not only that, but after also getting the number 6 burned off, he also tells, hey man, go ahead and take care of the 6 back there too. And he goes in one of the most powerful and one of the coolest Grimmjow images in the entire story. Goes in, and he just pones Loopy, blasts Facero, and then in the manga you see that half his body's just completely gone. I mean, R.I.P. Loopy. You were a fun character, but it's Grimmjow time, baby. And I love it, because like I said, it seemed like such an Aizen thing to do. Like, yeah, I'll get rid of his arm and whatnot, but this is going to allow me to really showcase how important this person is to us, and how important this person's abilities are to us, man. And just to prove to himself how incredible his abilities are, he uses it on the very same thing that he caused in the first place, on Grimmjow losing his arm and having it completely wiped out, and to be able to bring that thing back from nothingness. I was like, yo, Aizen-sama. Aizen greatness, man. I mean, it's an amazing chapter. I love this chapter when Grimmjow lets off that laugh, and he's just laughing in both the English and the Japanese, even the manga, man. You just get chills. I'm the sixth Espada, Grimmjow Dagger Jacks. Greatness, man. I love that moment. It's it's, like I said before, one of the cool, and like Kubo really knows how to do really awesome and cool villain moments, and that's one of them, man. A really, really nice moment for Grimjow, which is a character that we already began to love at that point in time. And just to see him back in his prime and ready to go in like somewhere. So you knew when him and Ichigo had their inevitable final square off once again in Hueco Mundo, they'd both be 100%. And I loved it. And I was like, yes, it's time. So great stuff right there, man. This entire chapter just building up into the greatness you're going to see in Hueco Mundo. So this to me is a fantastic sauce of a chapter. There's no question about that, man. I'm biased, but I don't care because this was a great chapter. Now, chapter 241, man. Another fantastic sauce of a chapter. This has one of my most memorable moments while watching the Bleach anime. One of my most memorable moments while watching the Bleach anime, man. There is no question about that. But let's talk about the manga first before we get to that. This chapter had so many good memories and nostalgia with it, man. I mean, yo, when you have a chapter that has a conversation between Ryukin and Ishin, it's an auto chapter. It's an auto fire chapter. But before we get to that, there was this portion in the chapter where Ichigo is asking Uryu, or Chad is asking Uryu, about the fact that, you know, I thought you made an agreement that you couldn't fight alongside with Soul Reapers. And you're like, yo, wait a minute. So then Uryu begins to explain that whenever he did make this pact with Ryukin, he couldn't fight Soul Reapers. However, he found a loophole that since Ichigo's a deputy Soul Reaper, and none of the other Soul Reapers around him are helping him, then that's how he was able to find a loophole in that and able to help Ichigo. And then whenever you hear that, you're like, man, Kubo's a genius. Like the reason why none of the members of Soul Society were able to help, and all of that, and Ichigo having to find the other two individuals who are also having their mental struggles. I mean, it all culminating in finding out another reason why this all happened, and it was great stuff. It was great stuff, man. It just shows more into the planning that Kubo had for this entire portion in the first place. But it was great stuff, and just having Uryu say that, it was another one of those like cool rival moments between him and Ichigo. Like, you know, I wasn't gonna let that idiot do it by himself, you know what I'm saying? But anyways, going into the stuff with Ryukin and Ishin, man, I mean, it was such a cool dialogue, and I mean, it's such cool dialogue, the panel structure, and so much insight into their pasts, man. Like, just seeing Ishin in his old Soul Reaper get-up robe, and him saying, oh, you got your powers back. And that's another person saying that. Kisuke said it earlier on in the story. But seeing Ryukin say it as well, man, and how they like treat each other as equals, and then there's stuff about them being fathers, and how Ichigo said, or Ishin said, like, oh, you're not winning Father of the Year. And then Ryukin replies to the thought, but I'm a better father than you. And Ishin just looks up in the distance. Ah, you're right. It was such a cool conversation between the two, man. It was fantastic. And then the chapter ends off, and let me show y'all this, bro. Let me just show y'all this insanely, to me, an insanely hype moment, bro. Dog. Right here, man. Let me, so we go back to Hueco Mundo, and we have Orihime back in her cell. And, you know, she's basically saying, you know, did I make the right choice in coming here? Because now I just healed Grimjow. Like, this is going to make everything worse. Excuse me, he's already stronger than ever. Or, like he's back to being at full strength, right? So we turn the page. And Orihime is, like, getting a resolve, getting ready to go into, like, swimwear, getting ready for having the determination to be able to, you know, fake being useful to them until everybody's ready for the battle. And I love these parts in Bleach, man. Whenever we have like, this spiritual pressure going down and you feel like it's raining, I love when the anime does it. It's like, and then we see that Yami and Okura feel it as well. And then we look at Aizen. Look at Aizen. Aizen just says simple words. They're here. And when you turn the panel, you see this fantastic double spread. And I'll never forget the first time I watched this in the anime, man. Never forget it, because it was just so hype. Aizen just like, they're here. Crack. To be continued. Like, ah! I'm like, those bastards, man. But what a nice double spread, bro. They finally make it into Hueco Mundo. And to end off the chapter, we have them seeing this extremely weirdly shaped creature, an individual. And it just, the place looks really, it looks like a bunch of buildings, and you're wondering, like, where in the flying flagons did they end up? But anyways, man, Great stuff. I love this entire portion right here. Like, Kubo knows how to build up hype. But this part right here was fantastic, man. Having Ukiyo and Yami in particular feel the spiritual pressures, and then having Aizen chilling in his chair. I mean, this man's always been GOAT with his chairs. He's chair sama for life. But just chilling in the chair, man. Saying they're here. Fantastic stuff, man. Fantastic stuff. I love that entire chapter, bro. Like the end of episode, I believe that's 143, man. It's fantastic. It's fantastic. It's so well done. I mean, I'm a mark for those spiritual pressure moments when the spiritual pressure is raining down and you see everybody feeling it, man. It's so good. Bleach greatness, man. Bleach greatness, bro. But yeah, man, thank you very much for watching. I just wanted to come on here and ramble about these couple of chapters. It's Bleach, man. I really just wanted to come on here and talk about Bleach, man. And this gave me an excuse to do that. To talk about the greatness of this portion of the saga. This was more of like a prologue of heading into the Hueco Mundo Arc, man. And I look forward to continuing this video series sometime soon. So that we can continue rereading and talking about the awesome sauce. I'm almost done with volume 27. I'm on the this was the second to last chapter in the volume. I just thought it was a perfect place to stop the reread at that point in time because they just entered Hueco Mundo, and then the next part, of course, starts a new phase in the arc. So I'll cover that in a separate video, man. But great chapters overall, man. Once again, 237 being a good sauce, or a great sauce. 237 was a great sauce. 238 was a good sauce. 239 was a great sauce, and 240 and 241 are both fantastic sauces, man. I don't care. They are both fantastic sauces, bro. It's such amazing chapters, man. And yes, there's a lot of nostalgia with that, man, but I don't care. Because that's a part of the feeling. It's a part of the hardcore feeling, man. The raw feeling that I still feel whenever I go back and reread that stuff. But anyways, man, I hope all of you have an awesome day. Bleach greatness, Bleach Hueco Mundo. Awesome sauce, man. Let me know if you enjoyed this video and if you would like to see more. And I look forward to going back and rereading some more of the Hueco Mundo awesome sauce and going on with part 2 of the series whenever the time comes, man. But I'll see y'all next time. Bleach greatness. Have an awesome sauce of a day. Hueco Mundo Arc. I'm telling y'all, man, we're here. It's time. I've been waiting to do this video series. We're finally ready to talk about the Hueco Mundo Arc awesome sauce, man.